Hello and welcome. This video is going to be a review of Wintersteel, the 8th book in the Cradle series by Will Wight, and this book is my favorite in the series so far. I'm just going to preface this review by saying that. I don't think I've had such a satisfying experience in consuming a book as much as this one. I mentioned in my Ghostwater review, which is the 5th book in the series, which I will link up above if you haven't seen that Ghostwater was a montage. It's basically a montage. It did what it needed to do. It was still very enjoyable. Wintersteel is a marathon, and I mean that in the best possible way. It's just from beginning to end, it's just a run of development, and the writing is just so good. Like the last book, Uncrowned, I had the 2 issues where he made Lyndon not his Luke Goblin self. I mean, from the beginning of the series, Lyndon has always been super prepared, always having a full backpack because he was unsold. So like he doesn't have any sacred arts really to fall back on to protect himself. So he always had just had stuff, always been prepared, so that way he's not useless. So when Will Wight wrote him not wanting to do the Uncrowned King tournament, wanting to get kicked out, have Fury and Charity like return him home, that just seems such an antithesis of who Lyndon has been throughout the entirety of the book series that I didn't like that. It just felt weird and unnecessary. And Will Wight completely rectified that in this book by making Lyndon totally embrace his Luke Goblin self. Like the entire points thing in this book is amazing. Lyndon just fully embracing and becoming the Loot King just brought me so much joy. Like I legitimately laughed out loud through some of the parts of the book. I also really enjoyed the development of Lyndon and Northstrider's relationship with each other. Where Uncrowned ended was Northstrider reaching through and grabbing Lyndon by the throat and asking him who Dross was. That whole interaction of Lyndon and Dross and Northstrider was very well done. I really, really appreciated that. And I really appreciated the foreshadowing of that particular piece at the very beginning of the book and how that kind of carried through all the way to the end. Which is something that I've appreciated about this book in particular, about the whole series. Because while I said that Wintersteel is a marathon, the fact that Will Wight has been able to write 8 books, I mean, at this point it's 11. He's got 11 books now in the series. The fact that the 8th book is currently my favorite book, especially after the issues I had with Uncrowned, I really feel is a testament to his ability to write. And it's sometimes when you get these long series, it can kind of feel like they're just racing to get to the next book, or they're running out of ideas and they're just kind of like doing filler. None of the books so far have really felt like filler in this series. And the fact I've gotten this far in the series and have the 8th book be my favorite, I think is a testament to Will Wight's writing style, and also just apparently his storytelling. He apparently has this story in his head and it needs to come out. I also really appreciate Will Wight in his relationship building between Yaren and Lyndon, because it went from a distrustful, uneasy kind of necessity partnership, a companionship, to becoming like a deep connection of mutual respect between the two of them. Because it's very rare to have a male protagonist and a female protagonist in a book, and for it to not be default romantic, where like to not do the Hollywood treatment of the character. It's more about their relationship as people, as friends, as companions, a relationship of mutual respect, and not so much like, she's pretty, he's handsome. It's I've really only ever found one other book where it's not like one of the characters is just the romantic interest of the other one. That's the only reason why they're also a main character in the book, is just to be the love interest of the other one. That is not what is happening here. The only other book and series that I've really also felt this way has been Darker Shades of Magic by V.E. Schwab, which I will eventually one day review here. I do need to reread that book. But I just appreciate it. The fact that while it has been hinted throughout the series that there might be a burgeoning relationship between these two, it's never been like default. It's never been inevitable. It's never been like that's all that character is for. It has just been they're training together, they're partners, they have a deep respect for each other, and seeing their relationship finally maybe progress beyond that in Wintersteel, like, I get emotional thinking about it. It's really good. Like, this book, the reason why it's my favorite book so far is because of the fact, like, it really made me feel a lot of stuff. Like, I laughed a lot in this book. Dross is still one of my favorite characters. I felt sad a couple of times in this book because of things that happened. And I felt really happy. Like, I cried from happiness at the end of the book. Why am I getting emotional? It's just really good. And hold on, let me collect myself a second so I can finish the video.
A few moments later.
I felt that it was a very masterful way to have both Yaren and Lyndon develop themselves separately, but then come together multiple times throughout the book. Because Yaren is still in the Uncrowned King tournament, and Lyndon had to just improve himself from the outside in another way. And to see all the other characters, the relationship with Mercy, to understand more about Fury, to understand more about Yaren's blood shadow, that development in this book is just mind-blowing. Like, oh my goodness, that was so unexpected. It's just so masterful how after 8 books, he's woven most everything together so well except for Pride's height. Except for Pride's height. So either Lyndon's a conehead or Pride, or it's just a really bad, it's just a mistake. To have everything else fit so well and to culminate in this book, and to only really have the 2 things that I mentioned in the last book as issue, is quite well done. The performance by Travis Baldree, I think, is the best in this book, with his pacing, his delivery, again coming up with new voices. Not even that, but you like start to understand that a lot of the expressions that are so ingrained in who Yaren is and her character is, like, you know, bleed and bury me, like almost all of that language, all of the idioms, all of the idiosyncrasies of her language, a lot of that comes from, and you find out in this book, from her master. And it's just really cool to have subtle details like that worked into the book, but in a way where it's not like, it feels like it fits. And it makes the character richer and more fulfilling, which is why I think it's really, I just realized there's not really a whole lot of the iteration stuff in this book, now that I think about it. I feel like because of the fact that now there is a member of the Abaddon directly interfering in the Uncrowned King tournament, not interfering, but now that there's something else there with penance, I guess they felt like they didn't need to do that. Will Wight maybe didn't need to do that then. But also, like, the power dynamic struggle between the different monarchs and how, like, it really would be that petty. It's just, the world building is amazing and continues to be amazing. And I'm looking forward to the next book. I have literally listened to Wintersteel 3 times. I don't know if I mentioned that before. I've tried recording this video so many times today. It's just, I don't know how to describe this book and not spoil it other than I really loved it. It felt like watching all 3 of the Lord of the Ring movies in a day, where it's just like beautiful and enjoyable, but also just like you're a little tired at the end because so much has happened. But I love this book. I recommend reading it. Obviously, it's down below in the recommended fantasy books, and I'm gonna move on to the next one. I really feel like Will Wight could have ended the series here, and I would have been fine. I would be fine. I would be fine if there was no other book. I'm not fine that, you know, I would be fine if there was no other book. Like, this is a place that it could have ended on, and I'd have been okay. You know, not like Game of Thrones with George R.R. Martin or, you know, Patrick Rothfuss. But if Will Wight stopped here, I would have been okay with that. I would have wished there was more, but I would have been okay with that. Unlike the other 2. But thank you guys for watching this. I will see you guys for another video next week. And until then, bye. Bye.